Hey, hello everybody. It's that time of year again, so here we go. Peanut brittle. That was a half cup of water, and there's 2 cups of sugar. I will put all the ingredients down in the description box down below. Right about at this time, I decided to make this recipe double. So I'm going to have to add more water and more sugar to it, which I will do, in time. Okay, here comes a couple cups of corn syrup. There was a little bit of corn syrup left in this one bottle right here, so I'm just going to pour it in there. I'm not going to measure it. I'll just use it up. I hate to throw it away. Okay, so for this peanut brittle, what you need is you need a pot with a good thick bottom. You can't use a thin metal pot. It won't work. It'll burn. You also need a candy thermometer. Very important. Got to have one. A pro might be able to do it without a candy thermometer, but for the rest of us, we need a candy thermometer. Okay, also, and take this seriously, if there's any kids in the house, do not let them play around in the kitchen when you're making this. I'll tell you why. If this stuff spills and ends up on some kid's back or on their legs or whatever, it's going to burn like you would not believe. I mean, it is very, very hot. Boiling water is 212 degrees, while this stuff gets up to about 285 degrees. So, I mean, it's very hot. Okay, be careful. Try to keep the handle of the pan, within the perimeter of the stove. Although I'm not doing that right here, but there's no one else in the house but me, so okay, let me tell you about water. Water is really strange stuff. You could put a pot of water on the stove and boil it, and it will not reach above 212 degrees. It will not go above 212 degrees, no matter what you do. You could put that on the ultimate high setting and leave it on there all day long, and it will not reach above 212. And I think the reason is because, the water molecules are made up of 2 gases. It's made up of hydrogen and oxygen. And they just don't have anything there to hold the heat. The heat just is released, through the steam. The heat just leaves. It goes right through the pot. It's gone. The water itself will not hold any heat other than 212 degrees. That's it. So as you add stuff to the water, that's what's holding on to the heat, and that's what will heat it up. Now, we're ultimately going to get about 285, 290 degrees here. And like I said, the sugar is going to be holding the heat, not the water. But anyway, you have to stir this until the sugar is dissolved. Once the sugar is dissolved, you're good to go. You can walk away from it for, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, 6 minutes. Once the sugar is dissolved. Once it starts to boil, like I said, you can walk away for a little while. Of course, you don't want to go out and shovel snow or, go to the beauty shop, or mow the lawn or whatever you're doing. No, don't do that. Because, you do have to keep an eye on the temperature. But, like I said, once it starts to boil, you can do other things. But don't forget, don't forget that it's on the stove. Otherwise, it'll just burn up. And like I said, you do have to pay attention to the temperature. Right now, I'm waiting for it to get to about 255, and then I'm going to add the peanuts to it. When it's approximately 280, then I'm going to add in the vanilla and the butter. And when it's about 285, I'm going to add in the baking soda. Now, you add baking soda to it so that it will, there's little bubbles that form, and it makes it easier to eat. It's like those. Basically, what you're doing here is you're making candy, okay? And what you want is a hard ball stage. In other words, once the sugar reaches a certain temperature, when it cools, it'll be hard. You know, like those little peppermint candies you get at Christmas time. You know, those, that's hard. That's a hard crack stage of candy making. All right. Well, if you boiled this stuff to the hard crack stage and you didn't add any baking soda, it would be very hard to eat. So the baking soda adds bubbles to it, and it makes it a lot easier to bite into it and to chew it. You really have to have the baking soda. It really does help. You know, when you add the baking soda, it reacts with the salt. You know, it's actually chemistry at that point. It reacts with the salt, and well, you'll see what happens here at the end. By the way, if you do want to double this recipe, you need a bigger pot than this one. It almost boiled over. I almost boiled it over at one point. Okay, now, we haven't added anything to it except the salt, and the corn syrup, the sugar, and the water. So we could walk away from it right now, and it would be fine. It won't burn. You know, I wouldn't walk away for any more than 5-6 minutes, but you know, right now you're okay. You're safe. Once it gets up to 255, that's when I'm going to add the peanuts to it. And you know what? I tell you, once you add the peanuts, you cannot walk away. You're committed. That's it. You can't walk away from it. You have to stay right there. And you have to keep stirring the bottom, otherwise it will burn. And make sure you stir underneath the thermometer. Otherwise what will happen is the peanuts will bunch up under that thermometer, and then they will burn. So you have to, you know, keep pulling the thermometer out, and you know, scrape the bottom of the pan underneath the thermometer. Okay, there they go. So it must be 255. The clip on this thermometer is a little bit loose, and you know, it keeps flopping over, you know, which is a little frustrating. So I'm sorry that my arm is in the view. You know, it shouldn't be, but anyway, I have to tighten that clip. All right, now, like I said, now you cannot walk away. You have to stay and stir it. And make sure you stir underneath the thermometer. You have to get it underneath there, otherwise it's going to burn. I can guarantee you that. Okay, so it's cooking nice. What I'm waiting for now is about 280 degrees. And once I get to 280, then I'm going to add in the vanilla and the butter. All right, look, see that? I moved the thermometer out of the way. Stir underneath, scrape the bottom. There you go. Now, once it gets to about this stage, it gets a little bit tricky. I mean, you really have to pay attention when you're at this stage here. You know, number one, you have to keep stirring it. Otherwise, it will burn at this stage. It's very hot right now. You know, and as you can see, the pan is really full. You know, so yeah, it'll burn. You know, once it gets up to about 280, it gets really tricky. You have to really be on the ball. Once it gets to 280, you'll see. You know, once it gets up to that hot a temperature, things happen real fast. Make sure at this point, make sure you have a cookie sheet or something that you can pour the peanuts out onto. You cannot turn this heat off right now and expect it not to burn. It will burn. There's still residual heat. So you have to have everything ready at this point. If you look up on top of the video, you'll see I have a big giant cake pan up there. I'm going to pour this stuff into that cake pan once it reaches approximately 285. You know, some recipes will tell you to go to 300. Some will tell you to go to 310. It's not necessary, believe me. At 285, you're still at the hard crack stage. You know, you don't have to go to 300. Trust me, you don't. This right now, it's 280 right now. There went 2 teaspoons of vanilla, Okay, and then I'm going to add in 2 tablespoons of butter. And then I'm going to add in 1 tablespoon of baking soda, and it's done. I mean, all you got to do is just get that baking soda incorporated, and it's finished. You'll see once I add the baking soda how light it gets. It gets real light. And plus, the volume increases. And the reason it's doing that is because of the bubbles. There, you can see it's starting to get light now from the butter and the vanilla. But once the baking soda gets in there, it's really going to turn light. And that's exactly what's happening. It's lightening up. You know, I mean, there's little tiny bubbles that will build up inside, and that makes it a lot easier to chew. You got to have the baking soda. Otherwise you're going to end up with a hard crack. You know, it's I mean, you still end up with a hard crack, but with the baking soda, it's a lot easier to eat. All right, watch. Now here it comes. Somewhere over here. I don't know where. Yeah, it's 285 right now. Okay, so I just letting it go like 1 or 2 more degrees, not much, just a little bit. Okay, yeah, it's ready. It's ready. When you add the baking soda, make sure that you take the thermometer out of the pan, because you want to be able to stir it. All right, there you go. Now that's 1 tablespoon of baking soda. All right, I'm going to pull the thermometer out right here. The total temperature was about 287, 288, somewhere right in there. All right, now watch how light it gets. It gets very light, and then all of a sudden it looks like it's going to want to come out of the pan. You see it? It's growing. Okay. All right. So now I'm just going to dump it into that big cake pan, and there we go, and it's done. Just let it cool all the way. Break it up. I used a parchment paper. That stuff is dynamite. But if you don't have parchment paper, you can just butter a cookie tin and use a cookie tin. The cake pan on the bottom there, that peanut brittle that's in there is a little bit too warm yet. You'll see I try to pull the paper off, but it won't come off. I have to let it cool off more, which is exactly what I did. All right, so here, watch. I'm going to try to get the paper. No, okay, no problem. I just have to let it cool. Here's the other one. All right. Look at how easy that paper comes off. It's really nice. All right, there you go. Whoo, man, that stuff is good. Too bad I'm a diabetic. Yeah, that sucks. But anyway, I did eat some. All right, so that's about it for the peanut brittle. And thanks for coming by, and good luck, and I'll see you guys later. I gotta go, I gotta eat.